The galaxy had never seen anything like it. The ship emerged from the void like a leviathan, its silhouette jagged and asymmetrical, a patchwork of armor plating and exposed machinery that defied every known principle of starship design. It was massive, dwarfing even the largest elderly dreadnoughts, and its hull bore scars that spoke of countless battles fought in the depths of space. The alien observer stationed at the edge of the star system could only stare in stunned silence as the behemoth drifted closer, its engines humming with low, ominous frequency that reverberated through their sensors. This was no ordinary vessel. This was a monster. The Eldery Collective, the self-proclaimed guardians of galactic order, were the first to react. Their outposts lit up with frantic communications as they scrambled to identify the intruder. Scans revealed nothing conclusive. The ship's design was unlike anything in their vast archives, and its energy signatures were erratic, almost chaotic. The Eldery prided themselves on their technological superiority, but this ship defied comprehension. It was a puzzle, a threat, and a challenge all at once. And then there was a name etched crudely into its hull, written in a language that their translators struggled to decipher. Unyielding Horizon. Humanity had arrived. The Eldery were not unfamiliar with humans. They had encountered them before, in the fringes of the galaxy, where the species had barely managed to cobble together faster than light travel. The humans were newcomers, their civilization young and fragile, their technology rudimentary compared to the ancient empires that dominated the stars. The Eldery had dismissed them as insignificant, a curiosity at best. But this ship, this monster, was something else entirely. It was a statement, a declaration that humanity would not be ignored. And it was heading straight for the heart of the Eldery's most populous star system. On board the Unyielding Horizon, the human crew moved with purpose. The bridge was a chaotic blend of clashing screens, flickering holograms, and the constant hum of machinery. Captain Elena Voss stood at the center of it all, her sharp eyes scanning the data streams that flowed across the main display. She was a veteran of countless missions, her face etched with the lines of someone who had seen too much and survived against all odds. Behind her, the crew worked in silence, their movements precise and practiced. They had been through hell to get here, and they were not about to falter now. Status report. Elena barked, her voice cutting through the noise. Eldery fleet is mobilizing, replied her first officer, a man named Jax with cybernetic arm that whirred softly as he tapped at his console. They're sending a diplomatic envoy. Standard procedure for first contact scenarios. Elena smirked. First contact? They've known about us for years. This isn't about diplomacy. This is about control. She was right. The Eldery had no interest in genuine dialogue. They saw the galaxy as their domain, and any species that dared to challenge their authority was either subjugated or destroyed. Humanity had no intention of falling into either category. The Unyielding Horizon was proof of that. It was not just a ship, it was a symbol of humanity's refusal to bow, to die quietly in the face of extinction. Earth was gone, consumed by its own hubris and greed, but its children had survived, and they had built something extraordinary. The Eldery envoy arrived in a sleek, silver shuttle that contrasted sharply with the Unyielding Horizon's brutalist design. The alien stepped onto the human ship with an air of superiority, their elongated limbs and shimmering robes marking them as members of the Eldery elite. They were met by Elena and a small contingent of her crew, their expressions unreadable behind their helmets. The lead alien, a tall figure with iridescent skin, spoke first. "You are trespassing in Eldery space," it said, its voice smooth and condescending. "Surrender your vessel for inspection or face the consequences." Elena crossed her arms, her gaze steady. "We come in peace," she replied, her tone firm. "But we will not be caged. This ship is ours, and we will defend it if necessary." The alien's eyes narrowed. "You are in no position to make demands. Your species is weak, your technology primitive. You cannot hope to stand against us." Elena's smirk returned. "You're welcome to try." The tension was palpable as the alien envoy retreated to their shuttle, their threats hanging in the air like a storm waiting to break. The Eldery would not take this lightly. They would come with their fleets, their weapons, their arrogance, and humanity would be ready. The unyielding horizon was more than a ship. It was a promise that humanity would not go quietly into the night, that they would fight not just for survival, but for their place among the stars. As the alien shuttle disappeared into the void, Elena turned to her crew. "Prepare for battle," she said, her voice calm but resolute. "This is just the beginning." The unyielding horizon hummed with renewed energy, its systems coming alive as the crew moved into position. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for too long. It was time to show them what they were truly capable of. The Eldari fleet arrived in a blaze of light, their ships sleek and symmetrical, a stark contrast to the monstrous form of the unyielding horizon. They moved with precision, their formations flawless, their weapons primed and ready. To the Eldari, this was not just a battle. It was a lesson. They would teach these upstart humans their place in the galaxy, remind them that defiance came with a price. The unyielding horizon stood alone, a single ship against an armada, but its crew showed no fear. They had faced worse than this. They had faced extinction. Captain Elena Voss stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. The Eldari fleet was impressive, but she had seen their kind before. They relied on tradition, on rules of engagement that had been written eons ago. Humanity had no such rules. They fought to survive, and that made them dangerous. "Shields at maximum," she ordered, her voice calm. "Prepare the gravity array. Let's show them what we're made of." The Eldari commander, a figure of cold authority, "Open a channel to the human ship. This is your final warning," it said, its voice devoid of emotion. "Surrender or be destroyed." Elena's response was immediate. "We don't take orders from you." The battle began with a barrage of energy fire from the Eldari fleet, their weapons cutting through the void with deadly precision. The unyielding horizon S shields flared as they absorbed the impact, the ship shuddering under the force of the attack. But it held. The Eldari had expected the human vessel to falter, to crumble under the weight of their superior firepower. Instead, it moved, its engines roaring as it surged forward, its asymmetrical design allowing it to maneuver in ways that defied logic. "Gravity array ready," Jax reported, his cybernetic arm moving swiftly over controls. "On your mark, Captain." Elena nodded. "Mark." The unyielding horizon unleashed its secret weapon, the gravity array, a revolutionary piece of technology born from humanity's desperation, created a localized distortion in space-time. The Eldari ships, caught in its grip, were thrown into chaos. Their formations broke apart as their vessels were pulled in different directions, their systems struggling to compensate. The Eldari commander's voice crackled over the comms, its tone now laced with panic. "What is this? What are you doing?" Elena allowed herself a small smile. "Fighting back." The human ship pressed its advantage. Its weapons, crewed by Eldari standards, were devastating in their unpredictability. Projectiles laced with unstable energy cores slammed into the alien vessels, tearing through their shields and hulls with ease. The Eldari had never faced an enemy like this. They had never faced an enemy that fought without rules, without hesitation. The unyielding horizon was a force of nature, a storm that could not be tamed. As the battle raged, the Eldari began to realize the truth. This was not a fight they could win. Their ships, once symbols of invincibility, were being torn apart by a vessel that should not exist. Their commander, desperate now, ordered a retreat. The surviving ships turned and fled, their once proud fleet reduced to a scattered remnant. The unyielding horizon did not pursue. It had made its point. On the bridge, the crew allowed themselves a moment of celebration. They had faced the galaxy's most powerful empire and emerged victorious. But Elena knew this was only the beginning. The Eldari would not forget this humiliation. They would regroup, they would adapt, and they would come back stronger. But for now, humanity had struck a blow that would echo across the stars. "Damage report," Elena said, her voice cutting through the cheers. "Shields at 40%, Jax replied. "Hull integrity compromised in sectors 3 and 7. Gravity array offline for repairs. But we're still flying." Elena nodded. "Good. Let's keep it that way." The unyielding horizon turned away from the battlefield, its engines humming as it set a course for the next star system. The crew knew their mission was far from over. They had shown the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated. But there were still those who would seek to destroy them. The Eldari were just the first. There would be others. As the ship moved through the void, Elena allowed herself a moment of reflection. They had come so far, survived so much. Earth was gone, but its spirit lived on in the unyielding horizon. It was a spirit of defiance, of resilience, of hope, and as long as that spirit burned, humanity would endure. The galaxy had been warned. The monster had awakened, and it would not be silenced. The unyielding horizon drifted in the quiet expanse of space, its systems humming softly as the crew worked to repair the damage from the battle. The victory over the Eldari fleet had been decisive, but it came at a cost. The ship's hull bore fresh scars, and its gravity array, the weapon that had turned the tide, was offline. Captain Elena Voss stood in the dimly lit engineering bay, her eyes fixed on the massive core that powered the array. It was a marvel of human ingenuity, born from desperation and fueled by a determination to survive. But it was also a reminder of the burden they carried. How long until it's operational again? Elena asked, her voice low. The chief engineer, a woman named Mira with grease-streaked hands and a perpetual scowl, didn't look up from her work. A day, maybe two. The core's stable, but the feedback from the last use fried half the circuits. We're lucky it didn't blow us all to hell. Elena nodded. Do what you can. We're going to need it. She left the engineering bay and made her way to the bridge, her mind racing. The Eldari had been humiliated, but they were not the only threat. The galaxy was vast, and there were other powers, other dangers. And then there was the mission, the real reason the unyielding horizon had been built. It wasn't just about survival. It was about something far greater. On the bridge, Jax was waiting for her. His cybernetic arm whirred softly as he handed her a data pad. We got a signal, he said. It's faint, but it's definitely artificial, coming from the edge of the system. Elena's eyes narrowed as she scanned the data. Any idea what it is? Not yet, but it's not Eldari. The frequency's all wrong. Elena felt a flicker of unease. The signal was unexpected, and in her experience, the unexpected was rarely good. Set a course. Let's check it out. The unyielding horizon moved toward the source of the signal, its engines humming softly. As they drew closer, the crew began to pick up more details. The signal was coming from a derelict structure, a massive construct of alien design that floated silently in the void. It was ancient, its surface pitted and scarred by eons of exposure to the elements. But it was still active, its system somehow still functioning. Bring us in close, Elena ordered. I want a full scan. The scans revealed little. The structure was made of materials that defied analysis, and its internal layout was a labyrinth of corridors and chambers. But there was one thing that stood out, a symbol etched into the side of the structure, a symbol that matched the one found on the artifact that had set humanity on this path. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. This is it, she said softly. This is what we've been looking for. The artifact had been discovered on Earth, buried deep beneath the ruins of a forgotten city. It was a relic of an ancient civilization, one that had vanished long before humanity had even existed. The artifact had contained a warning, a prophecy of a catastrophe that would engulf the galaxy, and it had contained a map that led to this place. Prepare a team, Elena said. We're going in. The boarding party consisted of Elena, Jax, and two others, a quiet, efficient woman named Tessa, and a young engineer named Ravi. They suited up and made their way to the airlock, their movements tense with anticipation. The structure loomed before them, its dark surface swallowing the light from their helmets. As they stepped inside, the air was thick with silence. The interior was a maze of corridors and chambers, the walls lined with strange, glowing symbols. The air was cold, and the gravity was inconsistent, shifting unpredictably as they moved deeper into the structure. They found nothing living, but there were signs of activity. Machines that hummed softly, screens that flickered with indecipherable data. And then they found it. At the heart of the structure was a chamber, its walls lined with consoles and displays. In the center of the chamber was a pedestal, and on the pedestal was a device, a small, crystalline object that pulsed with a faint, blue light. It was identical to the artifact found on Earth. Elena approached the device cautiously, her hand hovering over it. "This is it," she said. "This is what we came for." As her fingers brushed the surface of the device, the chamber came alive. The screens flickered to life, displaying streams of data in a language that was both alien and familiar. The symbols on the walls began to glow brighter, and a voice echoed to the chamber, a deep, resonant voice that spoke in a language none of them understood. But the meaning was clear. The device was a key to something far greater. "We need to take this back to the ship," Elena said. "Mira can figure out how to activate it." As they made their way back to the unyielding horizon, the weight of the discovery hung heavy in the air. The artifact had set them on this path, and now they had found its counterpart. But what did it mean? What was the catastrophe the ancient civilization had warned of? And how could they stop it? Back on the ship, Mira took the device and began to analyze it. The crew gathered around, their faces tense with anticipation. As the hours passed, Myra's scowl deepened. "This thing is complicated," she said finally. "It's not just a key. It's a map to something called the Nexus." "The Nexus?" Elena asked. "What is that?" Mira shook her head. "I don't know, but whatever it is, it's big, and it's dangerous." Elena felt a flicker of unease. The artifact had warned a catastrophe, and now they had found a map to something called the Nexus. The pieces were coming together, but the picture they formed was far from reassuring. "Set a course," she said. "We're going to the Nexus." The unyielding horizon turned away from the derelict structure, its engines roaring as it set a course for the unknown. The crew knew their mission was far from over. They had found the key, but the door it opened led to something far greater and far more dangerous. The galaxy had been warned. The monster had awakened, and it would not be silenced. The unyielding horizon hurtled through the void, its engines straining as it followed the coordinates provided by the ancient device. The crew was tense, their focus razor-sharp. The Nexus, whatever it was, loomed ahead, a destination shrouded in mystery and danger. Captain Elena Voss stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the swirling vortex of stars outside the viewport. The artifact's warning echoed in her mind, a grim reminder of what was at stake. The galaxy was on the brink of catastrophe, and humanity, against all odds, had become its unlikely guardians. "We're approaching the coordinates," Jax reported, his cybernetic arm whirring softly as he adjusted the controls. "But there's nothing here, just empty space." Elena frowned. "Run the scans again. There has to be something." The scans revealed nothing. No planets, no stars, no structures. Just a cold, empty void. But the device they had recovered pulsed with a steady rhythm, its blue light growing brighter as they drew closer to the coordinates. Mira, hunched over a console, suddenly straightened. "Wait, I'm picking up something. It's a distortion, like a tear in space-time." Elena's eyes narrowed. "A wormhole?" "Maybe, but it's not natural. It's artificial, and it's massive." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The Nexus was no ordinary place. It was a gateway, a construct of unimaginable scale and power. And it was active. The unyielding horizon S sensors began to pick up energy readings, fluctuations that defied explanation. The ship shuddered as it approached the distortion, its system straining to cope with the unnatural forces at play. "We're being pulled in," Jack said, his voice tense. "I can't break us free." Elena gripped the edge of her console. "Hold steady. Let's see where this takes us." The ship was engulfed by the distortion, the stars outside the viewport twisting and warping into streaks of light. For a moment, everything was chaos, the crew thrown about as the ship bucked and groaned under the strain. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the turbulence ceased. The unyielding horizon emerged into a new region of space, one that defied comprehension. Before them loomed the Nexus. It was a structure of impossible scale, a vast, interconnected network of platforms and spires that stretched as far as the eye could see. Its surface shimmered with a faint, golden light, and its architecture was unlike anything the crew had ever encountered. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure, a testament to the power and ingenuity of the civilization that had built it. But it was also clear that the Nexus was in a state of decay. Sections of the structure were dark and lifeless, its once pristine surfaces marred by cracks and debris. "This is it," Elena said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The Nexus." The crew was silent, awestruck by the sight before them. But their awe was short-lived. The ship's sensors began to pick up movement, countless signals converging on their position. The Nexus was not abandoned. It was guarded. "We've got company," Jack said, his tone grim. "Drones. Hundreds of them." The drones were small, sleek, and deadly, their surfaces reflecting the golden light of the Nexus. They moved with precision, their movements coordinated and efficient, and they were heading straight for the unyielding horizon. "Evasive maneuvers," Elena ordered. "We need to buy time." The ship lurched as Jax took the controls, weaving through the swarm of drones with skill and precision. The unyielding horizon as weapons fired, their projectiles tearing through the drones with ease. But for every drone destroyed, two more took its place. The crew fought with everything they had, their movements frantic but focused. They had come too far to fail now. As the battle raged, Mira worked furiously at her console. "I've got a lock on the central platform," she said. "That's where the signal's coming from. If we can get there, we might be able to shut this place down." Elena nodded. "Do it." The unyielding horizon surged forward, its engines roaring as it broke through the swarm of drones. The central platform loomed ahead, a massive structure at the heart of the Nexus. The ship touched down on its surface, the crew disembarking with weapons drawn. The platform was vast, its surface covered in intricate patterns that glowed faintly in the dim light. At its center was a console, its surface covered in the same symbols they had seen on the artifact. Elena approached the console, her heart pounding. This was it, the moment of truth. She placed the device on the console, its blue light merging with the golden glow of the Nexus. The symbols on the console came alive, their patterns shifting and changing as the device activated. The air was filled with a low, resonant hum, the sound of the Nexus awakening. And then the voice. It was the same voice they had heard on the derelict structure, deep and resonant, speaking in a language that was both alien and familiar. But this time they understood. The voice spoke of the Nexus, of its purpose and its power. It spoke of catastrophe, a wave of destruction that would sweep across the galaxy, consuming everything in its path. And it spoke of the key, the device that could stop it. Elena's hands moved swiftly over the console, her fingers tracing the patterns as the voice guided her. The crew watched in silence, their breath held as the Nexus began to change. The golden light grew brighter, the hum louder. And then, with a final deafening roar, the Nexus activated. The drone stopped. The swarm that had been closing in on the platform froze, their lights flickering and fading. The Nexus itself began to collapse, its platforms and spires crumbling as the energy that sustained it was redirected. The crew watched in awe as the structure disintegrated, its golden light fading into the void. The catastrophe had been averted. Back on the unyielding horizon, the crew was silent, their faces etched with exhaustion and relief. They had done it. They had faced the impossible and emerged victorious. But the cost had been high. The ship was battered, its systems barely functioning, and the Nexus was gone, its secrets lost to the void. Elena stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the stars outside the viewport. The galaxy was safe, but it was also changed. Humanity had proven itself, not as monsters, but as saviors. The unyielding horizon had fulfilled its purpose, but its legacy would endure. As the ship turned toward home, Elena allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. They had come so far, survived so much, and they had done it together. The galaxy had been warned. The monster had awakened, and it would not be silenced.